Uwe, thank you very much for joining us at DCAT Week 2024. Can you just take a moment to introduce yourself and your company?
Yeah, I'm Uwe Hanenberg. I'm working for Recipharm as Head of Product Development and Head of Product Implementation. Recipharm is the top 10 CDMO in the world and top number 1 in Europe, offering services to the pharmaceutical industry in the field of oral solid dose services, sterile fill finish services, and in biologic services.
My understanding is that Recipharm works with new product introduction. Can you talk about how you support your clients in that vein?
Yes, key for new product introduction, independent whether it is product development or tech transfer, are 3 things. The first thing is communication to the customer. That is very important. You need a structured project management or new product introduction process that is applied with rigor and discipline. And the third thing, maybe most important, is the scientific approach. So Recipharm is following the approach of fact-based decisions.
What role does design of experiments play in Recipharm's NPI support, and how does this support later product development?
Yeah, design of experiments or quality-based design is an integral part of our tech transfer and in particular in product development. Yeah, so when we start a project, independent whether it is product development or tech transfer, we are evaluating the process and the materials. So have a look on the critical process parameters, on the material attributes, trying to understand them and correlate them, how they are related to the quality attributes. This is mainly or often supported by a risk assessment that then helps us to identify these critical parameters of the process or quality attributes. Once we have done this and identified the most likely critical parameters, we are doing a statistically supported trial design to confirm these parameters and attributes. And once this is done, we can use this to set up the trials to confirm the design space that is in the end coming out of it, and use this knowledge during upscaling to identify the best process for the commercial production in the end.
Uwe, there can be a lot of issues when you're transitioning from product development to commercial production. In what ways can Recipharm basically minimize delays, maximize efficiency, so on and so forth?
Yeah, I would maybe discuss on 3 categories here. The first is the technology and scale. So Recipharm is able to offer all their technologies in small, pilot and full scale, which is the foundation or the basis for any successful product development or tech transfer. The second part I touched already, that is the project management and communication. That is key to every project. And the third one is the science. The science in the product development or tech transfer is key to the success. And here we are working, as already discussed, with DOE and quality by design. We are using statistical tools. We use modeling, and every project starts with a risk assessment where we identify the critical attributes for the process and for the material. And out of this, we are then able, as discussed already, to design the trials and upscaling and going into commercial.
Can you provide us some examples of the key risks you identified during tech transfer? And can you just discuss some of the proactive measures that are in place to mitigate these risks?
Yeah, there are plenty of risks in the transfer and the product development. For example, poor communication. So if the communication between the customer and the CDMO is not working, you cannot expect that the project is progressing in the right direction or fast enough. And what we are doing to support the communication is regular meetings, regular exchange with the customer, and make sure at every stage gate of our implementation of products that we are on track with everything we need. Another big risk is poor knowledge transfer. Very often the development is not started from scratch. The customer comes with a prototype or with a pre-developed formulation, or in case of a transfer, it is already a product that is established. And if the knowledge that has been collected related to these products is not transferred correctly, then the CDMO either has to repeat it or maybe takes wrong conclusions. You know? And here again, the communication with the customer, the definition of scope of work, of QTPP in advance of the project is key. Yeah. Further, a risk is, especially in tech transfers, that the machines are not like to like. Yeah, so for example, that you move from one model of a granulator to another model of a granulator. So, and this maybe meet adaptation of process parameter. We can help here as well with our modeling that we have implemented to make sure that even if we move equipment from one equipment to the other, that the process is running within a defined design space, leading to uneventful manufacturing and supply with certainty. Another key risk is, and that is not to underestimate, the regulatory strategy in the product development or tech transfer is defining which activities are needed with regard to stability, validation, or any other topics. So hand in hand with defining the QTPP and scope of work is to have a common and clear understanding of the regulatory strategy. These are a few examples of what can be hiccups during a tech transfer or product development. And last but not least, if you apply a project management that is not following a standard process, you cannot expect that you keep your timelines and that you get a good result. And what is a countermeasure? It is a structured new product implementation process with project management workbook, with risk assessments, interfunctional collaboration, with governance team where you can escalate, and very important with a stage gate process, which means we stop during a transfer or development at certain stages to ensure that everything that needs to be completed before we go into the next phase of development or transfer is 100% accurate completed.
Now, could you highlight some of the technologies or tools Recipharm is using that facilitate seamless tech transfers, and can you just discuss how these enhance the overall efficiency, reliability, et cetera, of the process?
Yeah, Recipharm can offer for most of the processes small scale, pilot scale, and full scale equipment, which is simply key for product development, but as well for the purpose of saving API. You start always with smaller scale, even in tech transfer. It is an ideal setup for product development and tech transfers. With regard to tools, as I explained already, Recipharm is a scientific-driven company. So we always tend to make fact-based decisions on scientific facts. Let me give you an example. We apply, of course, statistic tools, modeling, but let me explain with flowability. Yeah? In our solid dose, whenever you want to have a product, a tablet, or a capsule, or a granule in a stick pack, a powder needs to flow. Yeah? And flowability is not an SI unit like lux or calories, with one of the 8 units with which you can describe the whole world. No, flowability consists of maybe 12 to different impact parameters, like particle size, particle shape, porosity, density, tap density, angle of repose, loss on drying, and a lot of other attributes. And within a product development, to make a powder flow, you need to investigate which one or two parameters are impacting flowability most. And for this, Recipharm has set up a kind of powder characterization lab where we measure all the different parameters in a statistical or in a kind of scientific approach, trial design. And within a few days, with using a few grams of API, we are able to identify the most critical components impacting flowability negatively from the API. Yeah. If we now know these two parameters which are impacting the flowability negatively, we can simply look into our database and check with the excipients that we need for this development, for this dose form, which excipient is superior with regard to flowability in these characteristics. And with this, we can, in principle, design the formulation and the first step in silico. Then we blend this formulation that we are, where we do the prognosis on, and verify with the same measurements the improvement in flowability. And the success rate of this is, in the first iteration, is in the area of 65 to 70%. And if it does not work perfectly, we just make another iteration and calibrate the model a little bit so that in the second or latest third approach, second approach has 90%, third approach typically always works, that we in the end, after a few days of, and only with the consumption of a small amount of API, have a prototype formula that is suitable for the desired manufacturing process.
Uwe, thank you so much for taking time to speak with us. It was a pleasure.
My pleasure. Thank you.